Hi. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was reading a text message while I was signing on here. So, let's get down to business. Why am I speaking like this? Because I'm so stinking excited. That's why. Because it's been a good day. Emotions change, principles don't, right? Emotions change, principles don't. Well, unfortunately, my emotions change on a daily basis. Because sometimes building a business is really fun, and sometimes it's really hard and frustrating, and I get sad. But it is what it is. Okay, so we are going to hop into, let's see here, an episode of What I Learned This Week, and it is fresh. It is exactly what I learned this week. And we're going to cap it off with what I learned today. Because in the world of what I learned this week's, it ends at today, Friday. Friday, getting down on Friday. You remember that terribly awesome song? That terribly, terribly awesome song? I remember it. I remember that when I first came out, I don't know, summer of, 12, 13, something like that. I was down at Manasquan, I believe it was, Manasquan Beach. And I remember being out back when I was a young buck, back 5 or 6 years ago when I was a young buck, they would actually go out at night, have energy to go out at night. I remember that. And I remember that song. I remember when it came out. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to record What I Learned Live. What I Learned This Week live. It is an encapsulation of what I learned this week. Hence the creative title there. Folks, figure, hey, why don't we just step outside the non-creative box? Let's be a little bit creative. Let's be a little bit creative with the name that we pick for the show. And I can close that. Stop that, and I can get ready to rock and roll. All right, so if you'd like to give this a share, that would be cool. If you don't, that'd be less cool, but still pretty cool, because just the fact that you're here is cool. So you're still cool. So thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate the simple act of you just being here. All right, we're going to rock and roll. I'm going to start recording. Remember, please hop onto iTunes and subscribe to my podcast, because if you just rely on listening or clicking on social media, you ain't always going to get the shows. So make sure you subscribe to have everyone sent directly to your phone. Are you ready? Sorry for my clearing of the throat. All right, let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to What I Learned This Week live. It is Friday afternoon that I'm recording. Friday, June 1st. Can you stinking believe that it's June 1st already? I swear it's going to be the end of summer, and then it's going to be freezing cold again. So we got to hit pause, we got to slow down, and we've got to appreciate every day. To be honest, that does tie in kind of directly with the book I'm currently reading, The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin, which I will dive into here in a minute. But I want to start out today's episode with a little story. And this may be the old TMI, this may be too much information, but it was honest. It was a real thing. It happened. It made me reflect upon myself, to which I asked myself, Spaniard, something might be wrong with you. So yesterday I was at Barnes & Noble. And I drink a lot of water, so I have to go pee a lot. So I went into the bathroom and I was in one of the stalls because another guy was using the urinal beside the stall. So as I was going to the bathroom, again, this might be a little bit of TMI, but it's pretty vague. I'll keep it vague here. I was going to the bathroom, and this person and I started going to the bathroom at the same time. And I am not kidding you one single bit. With all of my honesty that I possess, I'm telling you, the instant we started going to the bathroom at the same time, I thought to myself, I will pee longer than this guy. That was it. I knew nothing about this person. I didn't see his face. I just thought to myself, it was a challenge. It was a competition. And doggone it, I wanted to pee longer than this guy. And it turns out I did win. So I did take the prize of the longest pee in the Barnes & Noble bathroom yesterday at that time. So anyway, I just want to drive home the idea of the competition, the fire, the quest, the vision quest that I'm on and that I produce by way of this show. I wanted to share with you that little anecdote, hopefully not regretfully. I hope that it proves a valid point that this is the real deal, folks. We are striving to become the world's toughest learner, me and you. And by listening to this show, especially by hopping on over to charliespaniard.com and opting into my email list, where I will send you this document from which I'm not reading, I'm referencing. I will send it to you every Friday. So why learning, right? You might say, why should I learn? Like, what are we learning? Are we learning how to train? Are we learning about nutrition? What are you teaching me how to market? No. I'm teaching you the art of learning, the act of learning, the systematic approach to lifelong learning, and why it's extremely important, because it will benefit you in every single way possible in your life. Want to be a better parent? Boom. Learn how to be a better parent. You want to be a better husband? Boom. Read a book. Read the book, The 5 Love Languages. You want to read how to be more successful? Boom. Read The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. You want to learn to be a better marketer? Boom. Read Gary Vaynerchuk's plethora of books that I read. You want to learn how to be more accountable? Boom. Read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Echelon Front, Leif Babin. That's why, people. Just like you train for a competition, right? You train for a competition. You've got to go out there and you've got to perform. So you train. Maybe that training is sprints and then wrestling practice and then jiu-jitsu and then Muay Thai and then maybe some mental sessions with a psychologist, right? That's your training. Guess what? Your competition is now life, and your training is now reading and learning. Period. That's how you look at it. It will help you in every single aspect. As the self-proclaimed world's toughest lifelong learner, I want to make you the world's toughest lifelong learner, but you've actually got to partake in it. Whether it's listening to AM Excellence Monday through Friday, or whether it's listening to these What I Learned episodes, or listening to the interviews that I put on the show, it is all about just stinking learning. It's simplicity. It's simple, right? Let's learn. So let's dive into the first bullet point in the What I Learned This Week document. And this is coming from the book, The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. And Josh Waitzkin is a chess prodigy and a martial arts world champion in Tai Chi. Just a really smart guy, a chess prodigy. The movie Searching for Bobby Fischer was written about him. It was his story. And he talks about the art of learning as per the book, and it gets into some really deep stuff and some really thought-provoking, some really interesting stuff that again, you can get this book, and you can get every other book I read at charliespaniard.com/reading list. So if I ever reference one too fast or I'm going too quickly, always know, put that in your bookmark, charliespaniard.com/reading list. But he says this, to all you coaches and mentors, quote, a heartfelt, empathetically present, incrementally inspiring mom or dad or coach can liberate an ambitious child to take the world by the horns. So this book is about performance, right? It's about excellence. It's about high achievement from the you perspective, from the me perspective, from the Josh Waitzkin, this is how I did it, this is what I learned perspective. But he also sends a message to us parents and coaches and mentors out there, a heartfelt, empathetically present. Empathetically present. So you're there in the moment. You're sharing. You're exchanging. Not sympathetic. Not, oh, I feel bad for you. It's, I can imagine how you feel. I've been there too, son or daughter. Or tell me about it. Why do you feel that way? And then you add kind of depth and allow them to talk about it. That's being empathetically present. So empathy is the ability to understand another person's feelings, to convey to them that you can feel it with them or that you understand their feelings. Incrementally inspiring. So Waitzkin goes into this idea of incremental learning, and it reflects back to the growth mindset and fixed mindset Carol Dweck, who wrote the book Mindset. But incrementally inspiring, incremental meaning that we're taking off small bits, time after time again, and then we're going to learn from it. We have a setback. Guess what? We're gonna assess it. We're going to move forward. We're not going to try to climb Mount Everest on the first day. We're going to do this incrementally. So empathetically present, incrementally inspiring, meaning the process, the day-to-day, not just solely winning and losing. Mom or dad can liberate an ambitious child to take the world by the horns. I've got 2 young children right now, Gracie and Rocky. If you ever listen to this, your dad loves you, and your dad's going to do his best to be empathetically present and incrementally inspiring. So all of you other coaches, mentors, and parents out there, focus on empathetically present and incrementally inspiring. Moving on to the next bullet point. Waitskin talks of, this is fun. So I believe throughout this episode, but certainly in the previous episodes of this week, I talked about the idea of the interconnectedness of learning. So Waitskin goes on to talk about the value of presence, of meditation, of breath, because that's in essence what Tai Chi is. It's the manifestation, it's the physical expression of the Tai Chi philosophy. And he talks about the, quote, the importance of regaining presence and clarity of mind after making a serious error. So one of the things that he drives home with this idea of learning is this interconnectedness. So think of learning over here, and then think of presence and clarity of mind over here. And he, take on the active pursuit of learning. This is a bit of my wording as well, not just his. But take the active pursuit of learning over here. And then take the presence and clarity of mind over here, and eventually they start to meld together. So there becomes an interconnectedness. And Waitskin goes on to talk about the interconnectedness of, a river flowing over there could spawn a movement in jiu-jitsu or wrestling that you had never thought of before. So there's this web, this interweb, if you will, of connection and of learning. That's happening to me. The more and more that I read and the more that I learn, it boom, one reference or perspective over here, boom, strikes another one over there. So when I was reading this, that the regaining of presence and clarity of mind after making a serious error as a vital component of consistently high performers, I immediately thought of Kerry Collad. Kerry Collad, who's one of the best wrestlers to come out of the USA, he said that one of his quotes in our episode was I could always pretend that I was in the winner's bracket. I just maintained belief that I was in the winner's bracket. Whether he won or lost, boom, he was in the winner's bracket. And that had him competing at a clear and a present state. So understand that if you are a high performer, work on that ability. Work on that ability in practice. Right? Get several, do shark bait. I'm thinking right now, I'm immediately thinking wrestling or fighting, shark bait, I'm in the middle. You're going to get your butt pummeled. And after one guy pummeling you, the other guy coming in, take, as Aubrey Marcus recommends, 6 deep breaths to lower your blood pressure and give it a fresh start. That's a perfectly implementable way that you can practice this idea. Moving on. Waitskin describes mastering intense focus and clarity as analogous. This as analogous to slowing things down by increasing the shutter speed of your brain. This was one of the coolest, can I say funnest? Can I say funnest on here? It ain't a word. Whoop, there's 2 non-words in a row. Funnest ain't a word, but I'm going to say it anyway. So Waitskin really talks about this idea of, clarity and focus and presence. And he equates it to like superhuman feats being done in times of emergency, like someone lifting a car off a kid, or carrying insane amounts of weight, or doing just these superhuman feats. And he says the reason being is that we block everything else out that is not essential. That is not essential to survival. We axe it out. We clear our mind and our thought. Therefore, we're able to focus on this one thing with much more efficiently, with much more efficiency. And he equates that idea to speeding up your shutter speed. Your shutter speed. Think of a camera. So whenever you have this focus, whenever you have this presence, this focus, you're able to process and see things that your competition is not able to process and see. And he goes on to talk about several examples in martial arts, which is really, really neat. And he kind of says that, no, it's not mystical. It's simple presence and it's simple focus. And it really is, I'm telling you, listener, it really is worth reading, because it's just such incredible insight to this guy who is a world-class performer in more than one art, in 2 arts, chess and martial arts, and stinking writing, because this was an incredible book. So he does talk about that idea of increasing your shutter speed through intense practice, focus, and clarity. Oh, this is one of my favorite quotes. This next line is one of my favorite quotes from anything I've read in the recent past. Yeah, in the recent past. Quote, "The secret is that everything is always on the line." Just this morning, I went to Gold's Gym. Every Friday morning, I go to Gold's Gym and I do a death by treadmill workout. And I got to tell you, I felt like garbage this morning. I felt like garbage. I didn't want to go. My legs have been throbbing since Wednesday. I even took Thursday off. But it was still on the schedule and it still needed to be done. So come hell or high water, come doing it well or doing it poorly, I was going to do it and I was going to give it all of my being in doing it. The reason I do that is because I believe this, quote, "The secret is that everything is always on the line." As a professional fighter, when other people want to kick your butt, when their job is to beat you up, is to knock you out, everything's on the line. Every decision you make in your life, the ups and downs, the daily life, the small decisions that you make, it's always on the line because it will either bring you closer to winning that fight or losing that fight. So I've brought that mentality of everything being on the line into my daily life, into every single thing I do. When I'm on that treadmill, I imagine that Rumble is behind me and he wants to fight me again. The 250-pound Rumble, and I'm just 170-pound Spaniard, and I don't want to fight a 250-pound Rumble. I actually wouldn't rather fight any Rumble, to be honest with you. But that's the idea. So if you can operate, even just fabricate that a little bit. Just stick that in your head. Just pretend for a day. Pretend for a day that everything is always on the line, right? Everything is always on the line. Put that in your mind. Cement it to your forehead and see if you act differently. Because if you really, truly swallow that, if you believe it, if you absorb it, if you implement it into your psyche, you will act differently. You will do what you need to do to win because everything will always be on the line. The next bullet point, and this comes from episode number 180. Episode number 180, and this episode came out on Thursday. This was a special episode. It was a special episode because it was a very expression of myself. So Waitskin talks often about the importance of high performers. I believe I'm going to talk about it next. Maybe not next, maybe next week. But he talks about like your voice, right? Being true to yourself, speaking your own voice in whatever you do. And I brought this, during the show, during AM Excellence, I talked about, whether you're a teacher, it could be your style of teaching. If you're a fighter, it can be your style of fighting. I was very go, 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 go. And if you listen to this podcast, you know I'm very go, 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 go. If you're a salesperson, if you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner, sorry, not fighter because you don't fight, you do jiu-jitsu. A jiu-jitsu practitioner, then you have a style of jiu-jitsu or you have a style of personality and that comes out in your jiu-jitsu. So being true to your voice is extremely important. So episode number 180 is an example of that. I said in the episode, because it's solo, I've often thought of myself as an entertainer who doesn't tell jokes, he tells learning. An entertainer of lifelong learning. How fun is that? I've often thought of myself as an entertainer who doesn't tell jokes, he tells learning. So as I continue to develop my career on air, literally on air, this is the development of my career, and this episode, number 180, is further development of that career. It's actually like, It's a unique, if it's not one of the most unique podcast episodes you've ever listened to, I would be surprised. And you can tell me that it's not if you tag me at Charlie Spaniard. But this is an extremely unique, it's a session that I ran with a business. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It's so unique. But do yourselves a favor. Click on episode number 180. Give it a listen. And when you hear me start maybe kind of referring to what I do as entertainment, like I'm an entertainer who tells learning instead of jokes, you'll know where that idea started. Dred and I had to sit down the previous day, and we started thinking, like, what is this? Where is it? In the book, Waitskin talks about learning things and experiencing things that he wouldn't be able to articulate for another couple years. Or back when I read Steve Martin's book, he talked about, not understanding his comedy for another 10 years. And that's kind of what Dred and I are experiencing. So this episode number 180, it could be the beginning of figuring that out. It could be the beginning of articulating what I'm doing. an entertainer who tells learning instead of jokes, or it could just be another thing that is not the truth. But the bottom line is, Dredd and I will continue to sift our way through it with no sign of defeat, my friends. And the last thing I want to point out here is a quote from the book The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin, who says, the ideal for any performer, so if you're a performer, if you're an athlete, if you're someone who gets on stage, if you're someone who wants to perform at a high level in whatever area of life you're in, whatever your job or your identity or your mission is, the ideal for any performer is flexibility. And we're not talking like Gumby flexibility. We're talking mental agility here. The ability to go with the flow, like water, as Bruce Lee says. So this lends way to what our old friend Jocko Willink would call a dichotomy. So Jocko, obviously you hear me talk about him all the time. His new book coming out in September is called The Dichotomy of Leadership. And a dichotomy is a comparison of two things. And oftentimes they're opposites, or they can be contrarian to each other. So in this instance, I'm going to put out there that the ideal for any performer is flexibility. You've got to be able to bend and move and go with the flow and ebb and flow when you need to. But as evidenced by this book, The Art of Learning, as evidenced by what I do, by what I stand for, systematic learning, there is a dichotomy that needs to exist. Yes, you need to be, or I won't say you need to be, I prefer to be structured and systematic in my approach to training, life, and learning, pretty much across the board. But I also have to be flexible, because what if one day my mic is not working? Or what if one day I can't find my journal and my lesson plan for that day? Or what if one day when we're scheduled to, this especially is relevant with my family because I'm raising, a 4.5 and 1.5-year-old with my wife. What if we're unable to have nap time? What if bedtime is pushed until 10 o'clock? What if, there's all these variables. So yes, you've got to be systematic. I prefer to be systematic. I prefer to be structured, but I always need to leave the door open for this flexibility, because guess what, folks? Non-controllables are present in life. Non-controllables, Waitzkin talks about some of his training partners being kind of loose cannons. They're everywhere. I've had loose cannons in all kinds of different instances in training, but you've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to go with the flow. This has not been AM Excellence. I was about to say AM Excellence. This has been what I learned this week, and I sincerely hope you appreciate it. I hope you'll hop on over to charliespaniard.com to opt into my email list, where you will get this PDF document sent to you every Friday, as well as click on booking. If you're a business or a school or a team who wants to bring this fire and this energy of lifelong learning, if you want to spread it, hop on over to charliespaniard.com/booking. It's like entertainment, except you're going to smile and you're going to laugh and you're going to feel good. But guess what? You're also going to learn that it's going to make you better at what you do. I'm going to teach you strategies. I'm going to teach you principles. I'm going to give you real life examples of the hundreds and hundreds of books that I read and the experiences that I've had as a UFC fighter and as a teacher and as a speaker on stage. Stuff that's going to help you perform at a higher level. That's all found at charliespaniard.com, and you can click on booking, sign up, shoot me a form. Let's talk. Be bold, my friends. Alrighty, dighty. Oh, I love them. I love those. I love them. All right, so that, let's share that. That is this week's What I Learned. And I hope you learned a thing or two. I hope you learned a thing or two during this What I Learned. And as always, if you're still watching on Facebook Live, any support by way of sharing, commenting, liking, any of that stuff is sincerely appreciated. Reminder to hop on iTunes, click subscribe. I know you didn't do it yet. I know you didn't. The numbers tell. But if you would consider doing that, it would help me out. And if you appreciate this, know that I would appreciate that. So be bold, my friends. I have a meeting. Have a great weekend. See you Monday morning, 6:30 a.m.